It's a special John Lund Unleashed 49ers Camp Report edition. Shout out to Lund loyalists watching on YouTube, those watching on X, Instagram, Facebook, and JohnLundUnleashed.com and the Lund Lunatics, listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and like John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and keep those alerts on so you don't miss anything. Now with the latest on the 49ers and the NFL, here's Johnny.
What's happening? It's good to be here. 7 o'clock, that is when we're going to start from now on. Thanks for hanging out. It is a 49ers focused show, and hopefully we're getting the stuff we've been sending out on other teams in the Bay during the day. And then I still have a sweet, clean, family-friendly caboose pistol for you. But a lot going on at Niners Camp, episode 212, as we get ourselves closer to an actual game on Saturday night. Thursday, by the way, I'll be down for 49ers practice between the Broncos and the 49ers. And so it'll be cool to go against somebody else. The guys today were talking about that, and there's a ton to get to for episode 212. I will make our Havro call in just 1 second. In fact, let me get one of the platforms isn't going till I click a button. All the rest of them are automatic, so I had to do one thing before we got going. Okay, that one's going. All right, everybody is here today. Thank you so much for joining us. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. If you're watching on any of the other platforms, we'd love it if you came over, hung out in the chat room, talked some Niners, questions, comments, thoughts on camp so far. Anything that I say you don't have to agree with. I'm just giving you my opinion. It would be great. And again, I love it. So if you're watching later, just put under your comments underneath the show right here or at X at John Lund Radio, however you want to do it. But welcome, welcome, welcome. We are broadcasting live on John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, and if you would subscribe, that would be dandy. Like would be absolutely great because that helps the algorithm. And if you put those alerts on, you'll know when we go live. We go live all the time, and we send out stuff throughout the day, so you want to make sure if it's breaking news or anything like that, I'll do a quick hitter. So make sure you are subscribed, you hit like, and you have those alerts on it. John Lund Unleashed. We're also on the Bay Area Sports Collective where you need to subscribe. X at John Lund Radio, Instagram at John Lund Radio, Facebook, LinkedIn, however you are watching tonight. Thank you, but do consider coming over to the YouTube channel. That would be absolutely great. Tuesday camp, we'll get you caught up on that in episode 212, 11 days in. What do we know? Still, what do we need to learn? Dre and Huff, they are Broncos now, and they are returning. We'll talk about that. Robert Saleh speaks today, had a couple of interesting things, and every single day, they need to hit somebody else because it is kind of running together. But Saleh had some really interesting things to say. I got a long cut from him talking about the rookies, and he talked about all of them today. Really cool. Colton McKivitz doesn't get up to the podium all that often, but he's a funny dude. I don't know if you've ever talked to him or heard him or anything like that. He has the raccoon hats, and he's a big hunter and fisherman and everything. But he detailed how he got leaner in this offseason and got more ready to play, and that coincides with him being a free agent at the end of the year. And I know that he is a punching bag for some, but he's a solid right tackle. And if you look at him in camp, there's not a lot of guys that get the best of Colton McKivitz. So I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's not bad on that right side to complement the left side of Trent Williams. He doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. I like Purdy at right guard. We'll see about Ben Botch at left guard. And then Brendel, I think, is too light and gets pushed around at center. But McKivitz isn't the problem that many people say that he is. And then you're also going to hear from rookie Nick Martin tonight, the linebacker. And again, he hadn't spoken, so I was excited to see him. And when you see him, he doesn't look small. He's got cut-off sleeves. He's not quite Trent Williams in the gun show department, but he's built. It's just that he's probably 5'11", 220, and he's got to have the beefy guys inside to protect him so that he can flow and run to the ball. So you hear a couple of things he's saying about his head spinning a little bit so far in camp. So you'll hear from those guys. Bosa's soreness, missed his third straight game. We always got to go through injuries. Purdy's been that good, and what I mean by that is that we're not talking about the most important position in sports. We haven't talked about it hardly at all through this training camp because he's been that good. And what people are normally saying about Brock Purdy at this point is, oh, camp interceptions. Oh, what's he do? Oh, I'm so worried. Yeah, he's not a problem. And I don't care if he threw 50 camp interceptions because Brock Purdy, I've talked to him about it before, one-on-one, standing there talking to him, where he's told me, look, I'm trying to fit it in spaces. I'm not going to run. I don't want to run in practice. I don't want to, I'd rather force it in there. I want to play to happen. And it teaches him things of what he can fit in, what he can't. Like there's Fred Warner. He's about one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. By the way, Robert Saleh talks about D. Winters tonight. You'll hear that too, who took on CMC in a drill and did very well. But he's got to throw against certain guys to just kind of see what would be the norm and fitting balls in there. A lot of guys, I've seen it from Justin Fields and running kind of quarterbacks. They'll run in camp. I've seen it a lot. Young quarterbacks will run around in camp. You're not going to get away with that in an NFL thing. They've got a scrimmage going on, and it's, okay, they're not watching the quarterback. You could run for 20 yards on every play if you want to, but what the hell does that teach you? So when Brock would throw those camp interceptions and everybody would freak out, it was like, don't you get it? But anyway, we'll talk about him a little bit. Then we're going to debut a new thing on the show. It's called NFL Wire, and we'll go around the rest of the league. Some of the bigger stories in the league that you need to know about, like Hard Knocks actually did start tonight at 6, so I got to go watch it. 6 Pacific. Jerry Jones on Micah Parsons, and I'll tell you about these trade demands. Kyron Williams got a new deal with the Rams, which I think is kind of interesting. And the running back position is still DEA. No, it's not the Drug Enforcement, but it is a deal. I missed an L there. And then the Matthew Stafford injury, to me, it's a back. And this dude's 36 years old, and he's played a lot of football. And I tell you this all the time, the weirdness of, because I've done this for so long, you start looking at, a guy and the way he talks and what he's talking about with an injury and things like that. And you're going, wait a minute, there's something here. And I'm going to let you hear from Sean McVay tonight. And it's just a little weird. So a ton of stuff for you tonight. You're going to hear from Robert Saleh. You're going to hear from Nick Martin. You're going to hear from Colton McKivitz. Plus, the NFL Network was at camp. They're doing their camp tours. And so David Carr, Derek's brother, was down there. And he was talking to Christian McCaffrey about Brock Purdy and what he's bringing to the table during this camp. And then George Kittle crashed the set when Fred Warner was on there, and he was upset about something. So I'll show you that as well. So we got a ton of good clips debuting NFL Wire. It's going to be a great night tonight. So thanks for coming in. Much appreciated. John Joseph is here. Hell, I put this thing, I think, this morning at like 7 or 8 a.m., and he was up there. So John Joseph, it is good to see you. Joji, konnichiwa to you, my friend. It is great to see you. Joe Schmo is here tonight. It is great. Our good friends from East Gold, Red and Gold podcast. Yeah, Huff is good. Dre and Huff were the only two that went, and especially Dre. And I'm excited to see those two guys perform, because HUFANGA was kind of the typical guy that was released this offseason. They like, you're hurt too much, dude, and we got to pay you a $60 or $70 million contract. We can't do that. So that's kind of what typified it. Deebo Samuel, you're making too much money for what you're worth anymore. Huff, sorry, you're injured too much. Hargrave, you're injured too much. We're paying you too much. And so they're eating all of this money this year. They owed those guys. They didn't have HUFANGA. He was just a straight up free agent. But I mean, they're just, they're chowing a bunch of money this year, the most in the NFL, so they could get rid of a lot of these guys. And then I don't know, I'll get to Dre and Huff, and I'll tell you about the Dre story. Don't know if you fully know the Dre story, but I'll let you in on that a little bit as well. Our good friend Dom is here tonight. Very good to see you, my friend. Yeah, we do got to get together. Baba booey. Late night Lund. I like that pine needle. I like that quite a bit. Thank you very much. Enrique is here tonight. Jesus, it is great to see you. Bebop, go Niners. Good to see you. Vernon, awesome, my friend. Christopher, I hope I am not taking you away from work. Hopefully it works better for you, Chris, because I always felt like sometimes you had to go to work or something like that. So hopefully this works better for you. And I will acknowledge and welcome people as they come into the room. And again, you're asking yourself, where's this coming from? It is in the John Lund Unleashed chat room. So if you come on over here, and again, if you're new in the chat room, don't be shy. Now, look, you can just watch the show, and hopefully I'll be entertaining enough. But that's why I have a lot of clips and things like that, so you don't have to hear me blah, 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 blah for the whole show. But if you would like to say hello and welcome to the room, say it. Everybody will welcome you with open arms, even if you have a different opinion. Hell, we have Seahawks fans in here because I go on a show with my good friend Ian Furness every Tuesday at 2 p.m. if you want to hear me on KJR in Seattle. And so I tell them, come in, man. All are welcome, even Seahawks fans. And so they come in and give us shit every once in a while. So don't worry about it. Your opinion is cool, man. It is a safe space in here for episode 212 and John Lund Unleashed. All right, let's get to it. Tuesday camp, some of the things that typified it. Well, first and foremost, I'll get to depth chart in a minute because it's kind of laughable, these depth charts, but everybody runs it and goes, it's a depth chart, which, by the way, Kyle doesn't make, John doesn't make, coaches don't make. This is actually made by not social media staff, but staffers. It's not made by Kyle, John, and etc. And they might give them hints or everything, but just because you read it on a depth chart does not mean it's true. And I can give you a few examples here in a few minutes, but everybody gets freaked out and they love depth charts. So we'll get into that. But let me get to my notes. I got a bunch of notes here beyond that. So let me just hit those. I should have had those up, but I was looking at the depth chart, so I apologize. Hold on, I got to get these on my iPad. 1 second. Should have been more prepared than this. What are you doing, Lund? A couple of things. Well, first of all, let me go to Bosa's soreness first. This is the third day that Nick Bosa has been working on the side, and he looked fine to me. Maybe it just is general camp soreness, as you would expect. And this is just, it gets redundant day after day after day. Bosa's had a great camp. I would expect Bosa to have a great camp. But I just get the sense, and he's only been at the podium one time, and it was early in camp. I can't remember. It was like the first or second day of camp. Bosa was at the podium, and he was normal Bosa, hey, man, what's going on? Just casual Bosa. But as it's gone on, I mean, he's a bigger part of this whole thing than even it would appear on the surface. And by that, I mean, there could be 3 rookie starting defensive linemen. You know that. But everybody wants to go to Bosa. Trent Williams wants to talk to Bosa. Colton McKivitz talks to Bosa. All the young defensive linemen talk to Bosa. Bryce Huff comes over from the Jets. He's had a 10-sack season in this league. He knows what he's doing. He's talking about it. He talks to Bosa. Like, all these guys are like techniques and little secrets and all these kind of things. And Trent will say, am I doing something here that, people can get past me or whatever. So, he's got a big role as a mentor and as a player. But I just get this sense, and maybe these guys don't care, but I get this sense because they're prideful. Like, Bosa was named 57 on the top 100 list. He's a hell of a lot better than that. And then you're seeing guys pass him, or at least perceived to be passing him. He was the defensive player of the year a couple of years ago. So Myles Garrett, I give it up to him. He's great. TJ Watt, again, I give it up to him. He's great. Max Crosby's a great pass rusher. Micah Parsons is a great pass rusher. But, you look at some of these lists, he's like the 5th or 6th edge rusher in the league, some people say. Maybe. Or it could be as good as number 1. It just depends on the type of season he's having. He gets doubled, he gets tripled. And one of the reasons they went deep into the defensive line this year, the Niners, obvious. Doubled, tripled, chipped. It's not like Nick Bosa's not playing well anymore. He's not hurt or anything like that. It's just, who else on the line demands any attention whatsoever before this year? Nobody did anything last year on the D-line. So they go out, they spend 3 picks, including their first 2 picks on defensive linemen. They go out and get Bryce Huff, a double-digit sack guy in Saleh's defense 2 years ago. They're not messing around. I wouldn't be shocked if, like when Trey Hendrickson, he's in camp, but he's a hold in with the Bengals. But with some of these guys and their contract issues, like Jerry Jones isn't trading. We'll hear from Jerry Jones tonight. Jerry Jones is not trading Micah Parsons, period, let alone to the 49ers. What does he want to do? Reverse the Charles Haley trade of years ago when the Niners and Eddie Diaz told us this. I remember I was at the Super Bowl a number of years ago, and Eddie D, the year he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, flat out told me and Papa that, look, the biggest mistake I ever made of many owning the 49ers, the biggest mistake, and it's not, number 2 is not even close, is trading Charles Haley. Like, yeah, he was a major pain in the ass, but I could have probably traded him somewhere else beyond our number 1 competition through the 90s. Probably shouldn't have done that. So I think Jerry's going to return the favor. Hey, you did that for us in the 90s, and it helped us win Super Bowls. Let's trade you Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is not coming here. He's not going anywhere. But it's not going to be that kind of a situation. But my point is that the Niners aren't just going to sit on their hands. If they can improve the pass rush even right now, and I like what I'm seeing from Mikael Williams, I like what I'm seeing from C.J. West. Huff is a speedball coming off the edge. Yes, that is heroin and cocaine mixed. Never tried it. But, he is fast. So I expect their line to be good. I expect it to get better as the season goes on because there's so many young players in this whole thing. And we're going to hear Robert Saleh talk about young guys tonight. But, him sitting out 3 days, it's kind of weird. But I saw him, he was moving fine. Didn't have any issue with that. He's moving fine. So there's that on my notes today. Injuries is probably what you want to know. Let's see. Where's my injury list? I have so many dumb notes here. Let's see. Injuries. I had a list of injuries here. I don't know. It's the same old stuff. I mean, there's 13 guys missing camp, right? Oh, here you go. This was just today. Renardo Green, Jauan Jennings, still that calf. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Cowing is out till Raiders week. Christian McCaffrey had a rest day, but he was on NFL Network. Jair Brown's nursing an ankle. Guerrero out 2 weeks with a shoulder. Kyle Juszczyk, another guy that was working on the side and looked like he was moving fine, has got a heel issue. Evan Anderson's got a knee bruise. Trent Williams had a rest day. Kevin Givens is out for a while with the pec. Sam Okawanu is out with a groin in the groinal region, and they called Bosa a rest day. So why did Greg Joseph get released? They don't have any damn players. They got to practice against the Broncos on Thursday, man. I mean, they don't. That list is long today. So that's what's going on. 11 days into camp. You know what's funny? I'm going to start playing these videos for you. What's funny about camp is we're all writing about the same things every single day. You know, the wide receiver position and Jauan Jennings and all that kind of stuff. But Pearsall for the third day in a row and Brock Purdy are really getting on the same page. You've heard that, but just telling you. Upton Stout made more good plays today and was taking on Ricky Pearsall. You've heard that. To give you some new news, I'm going to let you hear Robert Saleh say this, but it's really interesting. Mykel Williams is rushing better from the inside than the outside. CJ West continues to be a bad man. Alfred Collins is getting better. You know, that I just think, you know, everybody's asking Alfred Collins to do the wrong things, though. I think Alfred Collins is going to be a guy that's going to be just a rock in the middle of the defense. That's what they need him to be. Push the pocket, don't get moved. That's it. Javon Kinlaw, similar size guy, got forklifted by interior offensive linemen who were shorter than him but strong as hell. Jason Kelsey did it. You remember the NFC Championship game, even when Brock Purdy getting hit right away. Their offense, he was just forklifting them, and they were laughing like he's going 5 and 10 yards down the field. Just you can't get moved, man. His pad level is getting better. He's getting better, but that's going to be the progress you hear throughout the season with this defense. That's just the way it's going to be. So anyway, there is some things. What do we still need to learn? And I'm going to bring up the depth chart a little bit later in the show after we listen to some stuff and watch some videos. But, you know, as far as jobs open, I'm going to go through that when we do the depth chart. But there's not a lot open now. They basically said Ben Barch is going to be the left guard unless there's injuries, receivers because of injuries, defensive backs because of injuries. But guys like D. Winters has won the second linebacker job next to Fred Warner, and they don't use 3 linebackers a ton. And Luke Gifford was the guy I told you in Tennessee, the guy that came from Tennessee as a special teams guy. He's the third linebacker right now if they need one. I think Nick Martin can get that job at some point, but you're going to hear from Nick Martin. It's kind of taking him a second. So anyway, we'll get to all of that stuff. Let's get a little video. Let me start out with little Robert Saleh for you. And this is what I'm talking about with D. Winters. So, you know, a lot of people are skeptical of D. Winters, and when they hear us constantly, like I said, it's day after day after day, the same guys are jumping out, which is great. Because I can tell you, I told you this the other day, we all stand on the sidelines of a meeting, we wait for somebody to do something, right? And day after day after day, it's D. Winters. Day after day after day, it's Upton Stout. Day after day after day, it's CJ West. You know, of the new guys, I don't need to talk about the stars, the Kittles, the Warners. You know that. They're having a great camp. They're fine. As long as they don't get hurt, nothing really even matters. We don't even talk about them. But D. Winters continues to have a great camp, and I think he's going to be great next to Fred Warner. I think he needed a year. That's why when everybody freaks out and they watch 1 year of a guy and they go, well, that's what the guy is. Well, these rookies aren't going to be that. And you might as well call D. Winters a rookie because last year was the first time he'd had extensive experience in the NFL. As is, he's a third-year player coming in, and I think the light finally turned on. And that's kind of what it's about. You know, it takes a guy a year or two. Maybe certain guys just are firing right from day one. Like CJ West, to me, the 5th-round pick out of Indiana, he's going to be good day one. I mean, he's got the leverage. He's a very smart guy. He's inquisitive. You talk to him, he gets it. You can just tell. CJ West is going to be a player that's going to be, I'm not saying he's going to be a star right away, but he's going to be in the rotation. He might even start. I think he's going to be, like I told you, in the pass rushing line. I think he's going to be very good. So anyway, here is Robert Saleh talking about the evolution of D. Winters and specifically a one-on-one play he had today against Christian McCaffrey.
Oh yeah, his coverage ability is as good as anybody. You trust him in those situations. You know, you normally with a guy like Christian on the field, you're not going to want to be in a call that puts it back one-on-one, but gave him the op and he won. And with every passing day, he builds more and more trust that he can do that. And the more he shows that he can, it just creates openings for everybody else, especially from a blitz standpoint, where we can send extra people in at their protection, knowing that we have guys all over the place that can handle the different athletes that the league has to offer.
So, I mean, that's really encouraging, and I'll tell you why. And you know this. What was the problem last year? One of the problems defensively, and there was a number of them, but what was, I think, one of the biggest, probably top 3 problems defensively last year for the 49ers? Devondre Campbell. Devondre Campbell was the guy standing next to Fred Warner. He was the second linebacker on the roster. How did you know his name was Campbell? Because he was turned around constantly chasing a guy that he couldn't cover. That was constant. That was a part of the game plan for the other team last year. Where's 59? Whether it's a tight end, whether it's a running back, whether it's a receiver, whatever it is, we're running guys into that zone because 59 can't cover. Devondre Campbell had years where he was actually a Pro Bowl player with Arizona and Green Bay, but not last year. And then he, of course, quit on the team. But he was, because Dre Greenlaw was out, he was the number 2 linebacker on the 49ers because they tried with D. Winters, and he wasn't ready. He just was not ready. So that's what was going on. So now you're sitting there going, okay, now everything's good. Everything's good, right? So anyway, D. Winters, that is a huge, huge deal that D. Winters is, a lot of people are saying, and Robert Saleh just said, hey, he's a great coverage guy. Because a lot of these guys, and I told you this, I'll give you a great example. Reuben Foster, for example. Reuben Foster, when Reuben Foster first came in, I went to training camp, and I remember, and it's not just Reuben Foster as, I'm testing this thing. Does somebody say they couldn't hear me? Reuben Foster was a guy that, comes out of Alabama. The Niners trade up to get him. They're all excited. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm watching him in camp. And when it came to the rundowns, a lot of linebackers, college linebackers come into the league like this. Can they go downhill? Oh yeah. Reuben Foster could go downhill. He could get to the line. He could pass, he was all right. But then when he'd go on pass coverage, it was like, oh my God. Like I remember the first day and I'm watching him. So we're watching him and, he's going forward. He's going forward. He's going forward. He's going forward. It's great. Now he's in pass coverage. Kyle Juszczyk does an arrow route on him, which is just like this. So out in, and Reuben Foster like falls down and we're like, uh-oh. And then I know this tight end's not even on the team anymore. It was some 3rd or 4th string tight end. Not even, he was a blocker. So the next rep is that guy. He burns Reuben Foster. Another guy, he burns Reuben Foster. And we start looking at each other like, this is going to be a problem. Because you got to be able to cover in the NFL, man. You don't necessarily have to be Patrick Willis or Fred Warner, but you got to make it so that the other team is not targeting you. And that's what an offense does. Okay, where are the weak spots? That's what we're targeting. So Devondre Campbell last year was clueless when it came to pass coverage. Now you're hearing Robert Saleh say he's an amazing athlete and really, and I mean, he's going a little maybe overboard here, but he's saying, look, he could be one of the best pass coverage linebackers in the league. Well, Fred Warner already is. And so, look, as long as those guys, and he's still a speed guy. He's not as undersized as Nick Martin, but he's still a speed guy. So as long as those big pieces of beef that the 49ers drafted can come through and keep linebackers off him, D. Winters is going to make plays this year. I really believe that. So there's cut 1 from Robert Saleh. This one we've been talking about for a long time. Here is another discussion about the rookies, but this is how they're progressing now that they are 12 practices in. Here's Robert Saleh asked a question about how the rookies on defense are progressing.
We love this rookie class. That they're all attacking every moment. I know Fred spoke pretty candidly about up and stout. He's doing a hell of a job. Alfred's been getting better every day, getting his legs underneath him, showing some really good progress in the run game. CJ's been showing good stuff in the run game. Michael, obviously, it's hard to see in there, but his pass rush on the inside has been fantastic. And even Siegel, safety, is coming along.
Uh-oh, sorry about that. I just screwed that up. Hold on.
Doing a really nice job. So just overall as a group, they're getting better. They're competing. Going against a really, really precise offense. Our offense has been rolling out for 8 years, and so the precision at which they operate is pretty damn good. So they're getting all they're getting all they can handle as rookies. It's as hard as it's going to get for them going against our offense and all the different things they do, but they're showing that it's not too big for them. You know what? He's got great feet. he's kind of awkward because he's long, he's tall, he's not a traditional 3 technique. So he's got great foot speed and strength and power and length he's shifty. He can get outside his frame. I'm trying to figure, like, it's different for guards to go against a guy like him. And he's so good with his hands. He's so good with his feet. He plays with great pad level. He's got power. So he's a 3-way player. He can run around you. He can run through you. He can counter. And, he's showing all of it off. And, he still has a long ways to grow. So, like I said, he's going to be a good football player in this league. And it may not come this year, but you could see it through practice that this kid, once he gets it, it's going to be special.
All right, there he is talking about the rookies. And again, it excites you every time they start talking about Mykel Williams. And the thing that's happening with him slowly, like I said, I think it's going to take a minute. And you're hearing that kind of caveat happen. And you're going to hear, actually, do I have it tonight? I think tomorrow night I'm going to play it for you, because tomorrow night I'll have a guest on the show who I'm not at liberty to say yet. But I'll have a guest on the show tomorrow on an off day to just kind of go through camp through 12 days. They're off tomorrow. And then Thursday is the joint practice with the Broncos. But let me just go back to the end. Saleh's talking about every day Upton Stout, every day D Winters, every day, CJ West, every day. I mean, again, we don't have to talk about the stars. We don't have to talk about Warner, even Demo Lenore. He looks great. All these kind of guys. Bosa, unless he's injured. Like I said, he's missed his 3rd straight practice, but they're saying it's a vet off day. So, okay, I'll believe them at their word. We don't talk about the superstar guys, but it's every day it's talking about the same guy. It's Upton Stout. It's D Winters. It's, again, it doesn't mean they're going to do great. I don't know. Thursday's the day. And I want you to come in every single night to hear what we're talking about, but Thursday especially, because that's going to tell us. And I've told you the story, and I'll tell it again and again and again, but the biggest one in recent years is Trey Lance. Trey Lance, first couple of weeks of his rookie year, there were whispers, because I was down there, this guy might start. He might start over Jimmy G. Goes to a joint practice with the Chargers. It's a totally different defense. He doesn't know, this, that, or the other. That's what you do. You say, hey, mix things up for this guy so he's a little bit confused. He never recovered from it. Honestly, he never did. He never recovered from it. And you'll hear from Sean Payton tonight too. I have some Sean Payton to play for you. It's just different. Certain guys are going to do it. Sean Payton, I was listening to his press conference today. Obviously, the Denver Broncos head coach. They're coming in Thursday, and then of course Saturday night. And Sean Payton's going to play his guys against the Niners, 1s versus 1s. They're going to do that whole thing. They're going to have the joint practice. And Sean Payton said, and I'm playing guys on Saturday too. He goes, I'm not playing guys. He goes, there's only 3 preseason games, and I don't play him in the 3rd one very much. He goes, I play him in the first 2. Every coach is different, especially because they've cut from 4 to 3 games now. Every coach is different. So Payton said he's playing his guys Thursday and Saturday. Kyle Shanahan said the game basically is Thursday for him. None of his stars are playing. Now, you can't sit everybody out. Fans freak out. Oh, you got to sit everybody. Well, 22 guys got to play at minimum. Actually, more than that. You have a punter and a kicker and everything else. So you've got to make sure. And that's why there was that flurry of moves yesterday, because they were short some guys. They're going to need those guys for the Bronco camp. They're going to need those guys for Saturday. And then those guys are probably gone. And some of those other guys might come back. I don't think the kicker's coming back, but they might move some guys back on the roster. But that's just kind of how it works. So it's everybody kind of plays this thing differently. So there's Robert Saleh talking about the rookies. But let me go back to I got yapping for there a second. Mykel Williams. He's actually rushing better from the inside when you watch him than he is the outside. And I told you, he had the fewest reps of any edge rusher coming out of the draft. When he's on the inside, and you heard Robert Saleh say this, he can go around you, he can go through you. He's got moves on the inside, and he's quick. So these guards are like, what the hell do I do with this guy? Whereas the tackles, he really doesn't have the go-to moves on the outside. But that's okay, because on 1st and 2nd down, he's going to be used or asked to, more than rush the passer, be an edge setter. And that was a big problem last year. Everybody thinks, Leonard Floyd got 8.5 sacks. He was awesome. No, he wasn't. He played over 500 snaps. And in those, 8.5 sacks, way to go. The other ones, he sucked. Setting an edge, he sucked. They got smoked in the run game. And a lot of it was going to his side. And so they needed a guy. Eventually, he's going to be a guy that can rush from the outside. But for now, he's going to set an edge. Then he's going to come inside. He's going to give guards problems. Bryce Huff's going to come off that other edge. Bosa's coming off the other. And I bet it's going to be CJ West as another guy inside. It's going to be nasty. But right now, he's a better inside than outside pass rusher. So I thought that was interesting that Robert Saleh said that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, making his debut, I believe, at the podium, at least for the 2025 season. Here is Nick Martin, third-round pick out of Oklahoma State. If you don't know the story on him, he's a really good linebacker in college, but he got banged up last year. And it was a bit of a surprise that the Niners took him as early as they did. But again, there's a bit of a philosophy change defensively. Big beef up the middle to push the pocket and to keep the interior linemen off the second level, the linebackers. D. Winters, speed guy. Nick Martin, speed guy. That's more the trend in the NFL. Not only to cover, but to get to the ball, to cut through the gaps. But you got to have the big guys keeping the interior linemen off these faster, smaller linebackers. That's what Nick Martin is. 5'11", 220, but you're going to see when we show him, he's got the sleeves cut off. He's built. It's not that. He's just not a really big dude, although he's pretty cut. Here he is about what he's learned so far through 12 practices. And he's going to say a couple of key words here, which I'm going to talk about after he's done talking. Here's Nick Martin, rookie linebacker out of Oklahoma State today.
Definitely the technique side of it. Football is football, but each team has different techniques. So the techniques are a little bit different than it was in college. So just really perfecting that and getting that down and learning how to play. You know what I'm saying? The right way to do it, the right way to hook drive, the right way to do all these different things. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to all of that. But it's definitely has been a little bit of a learning curve. But it's definitely, I've grown a lot, in just these 2 weeks of the camp going on. And it's been a lot of just growth and a lot of growth that I've seen in myself. And definitely it's beginning to slow down a little bit. And the reps are definitely allowing me to get better. So.
The thing that's interesting about that, he said a couple of key terms or words in there that again, as the season progresses, all right, I keep warning you of this. They're going to be, I think, okay when the season starts on this defense. They're going to be okay. I still think that they're going to need the offense to score, 30 points a game. In the first maybe month of the season, you're going to have no Brandon Ayuk still, but I think they're going to have enough receivers. I think they need to score and can, even with the receiver issue. Hopefully Jauan Jennings is back, but I think they can score 30 points a game. Last year, they averaged 22.9, no Christian McCaffrey. And Brock's going to be better. So 22.9 points per game, which is 10th in the league, tied with Atlanta. They got to add a touchdown to that, especially early in the season, because this is going to take a minute. And you heard Nick Martin. He said he's thinking. What's the worst thing that a linebacker can do? Think. You got to react and go. Fred Warner doesn't think during a play. Fred Warner is prepared. He knows what the offensive scheme is. He's seen a million things. When the ball is snapped, instincts take over, and Fred Warner is fast to the football because he doesn't have to think. He just knows and goes. That's what it is. He knows and goes. And so with a guy like Nick Martin, he's saying the key thing about being a rookie at any position in the NFL. I'm thinking. Don't think, can't think. But he's got to. He's a rookie. He's learning all this stuff. It's totally new. He's talking about new techniques, new things. Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? He's got coaches yelling at him, and then he gets in the 11-on-11s, and his head's spinning. And remember, that's just on defense. Like, there's not as many defensive calls as there are offensive calls. So he's spinning, man. And he's out there, and you're seeing it. But he did say things are starting to slow down, and you can see him on the field. He's starting to speed up a little bit. But that's where D Winters was a year ago. And that's why I think D. Winters is going to be so much better. D. Winters isn't thinking anymore. He's just doing. And he's got the athletic ability to do what he's doing. Now, again, break down, get to the football, don't freak out like he did last year. Just missed a lot of plays, just too hyped to be there. So Nick Martin, to me, when things slow down and when he's not thinking, he'll be out there. Right now, he's the backup weak side linebackers. Clifford, the guy who came over from Tennessee, is the third linebacker on the field. At least that's what the depth chart says. And that's been what we've seen in practice. But I think if Nick Martin can play that other linebacker, then those are the three guys that are going to be on there. But it's going to take him a minute. He says his head's spinning a little bit. So that's what's going on there. All right. Let's flip to the offensive side of the football. Still need to learn. Dre Huff. I will get to Dre Huff in a minute. Saleh speaks. We got that. Martin, we let you hear from. We're in the middle of the chalkboard there. Let me let you hear from McKivitz. Colton McKivitz doesn't talk very much. But I don't know if you remember, but when he got drafted, his dad had some raccoon hat or something like that. And McKivitz has a good personality. He's funny, but he does, doesn't often go to the podium. I mean, offensive line wise, Trent Williams goes to the podium. None of those other guys really do. It just him. I mean, it's just Trent Williams. We need a representative from the offensive line. Trent Williams is great. He's smart, talks, he's great. He's great on the podium. Trent Williams goes up there. But during camp, it's like they're rotating so many guys, and not everybody wants to go up. There's not like during the season, the guys who go to the podium are like Brock, Fred, Kittle, McCaffrey. Like it's rotation of the same guys. Demo Lenore, like the stars just go. But during camp, it's like, look, we want you to get to know everybody, so everybody's got a turn. And so all these guys, every day, it's somebody different, and it's really fun, actually. So Colton McKivitz has got a great personality. He's up there talking about all sorts of stuff. But remember, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. So he gets into this discussion tonight, and it's pretty good, about what he did in the offseason. He got serious. He's going to be a free agent, as I told you. Everybody bitches and moans about Colton McKivitz. He's not a problem. He's not going to be the reason they lose football games. He's solid. So here he is, and he is likable. So maybe I'm a little bit, biased in that way. But here he is talking about what he did in the offseason to get in better shape for his contract year.
To spend a lot of time in the city of San Francisco this offseason with Tark and Vallejo Street. Kearney Hill is quite steep. It was cool to see some locals run it with me too. That was different. But you get to embrace the city, and that's something that I kind of took on this year. It obviously helped. I did a lot of bodyweight stuff, bodyweight movements, put on 8 pounds of muscle, leaned down, lost some percentage in body fat. So I did what I needed to do this offseason to prepare for this year. So I think I'm seeing some of that work come to fruition right now, and then obviously building off that is.
All right, so then they just asked him about locals and all sorts of stuff. And anyway, he was running hills in San Francisco, and he was running into fans who knew. It's hard to miss him. This dude's like 6'7" and like 315 pounds or something like that. So he's running hills and everything. And he said, look, he put on 8 pounds of muscle, lost some weight. He's quicker. Feels like it's helping him in camp and all those kind of things. It's too bad that it took a contract year to motivate him to do those kind of things. But, you got Trent Williams, you got Colton McKivitz. Are they going to be able to keep him long-term? See, that becomes the problem. And the Niners said they were trying to address it. There were so many issues in the draft that they had to address. Think about the tackle position. Trent Williams is 37. He doesn't look like he's slowing down. I'm watching him in camp. He's pacing himself. So, by the way, if anybody comes back from camp, any people who report on the 49ers or have 49ers content or anything, and anybody tells you that Trent Williams is not having a good camp by any stretch of the imagination, he just paces himself, man. I've told you. In 11-on-11 drills, I've seen Bryce Huff just zip right by him while he was barely getting out of his stance. He's not going 110 miles an hour, man. He's 37. It's almost like Allen Iverson. We talking about practice. Like it's okay. I'll be there for day one. Don't worry about it. He's just pacing himself. He's going to be fine. I'm not worried, but he is 37. And then Colton McKivitz is a free agent. So a team that wants to play smash mouth football, and we're going to hear from McVay. We're going to talk about Stafford, Kyren Williams. The 49ers want to be the Rams. And what I mean by that is when Aaron Donald retired and they had, had a bunch of losses. Remember, they won the Super Bowl and they just said, okay, we got to cut. They kind of cut like the 49ers cut. They weren't rebuilding, but I don't know, whatever the term you want to use, retooling, whatever. They did that a couple of years ago. But the way that they came back so quickly was they nailed, like the Niners have done in the past with John and Kyle, they nailed mid-rounds. They nailed first rounds, but they nailed mid-rounds. Do you realize Kyren Williams, who signed his extension, which we'll get into a little bit later, the running back out of Notre Dame who signed an extension, 5th-round pick. Their 5th-round pick the year after Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua. And they're hitting guys like Brandon Fisk in the 2nd round. They're hitting a bunch of, defensive linemen in the 5th round, 2nd round, 3rd round. They just hit. And that's what they've done, is that McVay is kind of like Kyle in that they're always going to score enough points, right? They got Devontae Adams, and we'll talk about Stafford in a minute, and that's kind of interesting, but they have enough, and they're going to score points, right? With Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, Matthew Stafford. But what they did was, my point in all this is they fortified their offensive line. They got sick of the Niners walking into their place, dominating through the crowd, and literally kicking their ass, except for the NFC Championship game, which that wasn't fun because I'm doing the post game. I was one of the last people out of that stadium, and there's confetti everywhere, and I'm staring at a screen that says, Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, they've just out-physicaled the Rams. And a couple of years ago, the Rams said, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to fortify offensive and defensive lines, and we'll get skill position players, but we're going to fortify offensive and defensive lines. That's what they did. So Aaron Donald retires, and somehow the Rams get, well, I'm not going to say better because they won a Super Bowl with Aaron Donald. He played 1 year beyond that. Everybody left him for dead because they had to, work some contracts and do all those kind of things. And they nailed 2 drafts in a row, nailed a bunch of mid-round picks, and they concentrated on the offensive and defensive lines. Well, the Niners in this draft, as we know, they concentrated on the defensive line. And John Lynch afterwards said, look, we would have loved to have gotten some offensive linemen, some tackles, but the draft didn't fall for us. I know a couple of guys that they wanted. And they were good offensive linemen, and they could have helped this team this year, but they just didn't fall that way. So they got who they got, which I'm not saying it's bad. I'm glad that they fortified the defensive line in this way because Kyle will always score points, just like McVay will always score points. So they fortified the defense first. And then through free agency, the Rams went big, spent a lot of money on the offensive line, and they fortified that line to protect Matthew Stafford. So that's the same thing. I think the Niners next year, they'll do that in the draft, but McKivitz is a free agent and Trent's 37. So what you saw this year from the defensive line, you might see next year with the offensive line because somebody might do, and like, for example, the Packers, right? They signed Aaron Banks at like $80 million. I laughed until I fell out of a chair. I'm like, you wait till you see Aaron Banks play. He's okay. He's a slightly above average guard. Not great. And the same thing is going to happen with McKivitz. I think he's going to have a solid year. Somebody's going to look at him and go, he could be a solid right tackle for us. He's in his late 20s. He's going to get paid. The guy before him, Mike McGlinchey, slightly better, first-round pick. The Niners said, nope, can't afford it. They let him go. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to get a McGlinchey deal, but he's going to get a pretty good deal. So, anyway. So the Niners are going to have to fortify that offensive line. They just might be forced to next year because of that. Because McKivitz is a free agent, got himself into really good shape, and Trent Williams, I don't think this is the last year. I just get the sense that he's still going to do more. But there's that. All right, Bosa soreness I already talked about. We'll get into that in just a second. I'm going to play a clip from Christian McCaffrey in just a minute for you on Purdy's been that good. So let's stick a pin in that right there. Purdy's been that good. But let's go back up to still need to learn on the chalkboard. I'm sorry that I'm jumping around on the chalkboard. But see where it says still need to learn? So let's play with this a little bit. Can you see that, or do I need to make that bigger? Let's do this. Let's do this better. That's not it. That's not it. I know we could do better. Is that it? That's a little better. All right. Hopefully you can see that. That is the first unofficial depth chart for the 49ers. And let me pull it up myself, as a matter of fact, because I'm not seeing that too well. So let me just I've got it right here on my computer. Actually, you know what? I saved it in my photos. So let me do this. Nope, not trying to get there. I'm just trying to get to my photos. There we go. Now I have it. All right. As you can see right there, they list Jauan Jennings as a first-team wide receiver. We shall see. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Jauan Jennings, the offensive line is set. There's no movement on there. Trent Williams is going to be your left tackle. Ben Barch, who Chris Forrester, the offensive line coach, said it's his job to lose. He's starting. Unfortunately, Jake Brendel, Dominic Pooney in his second year says he's going to be even better. Colton McKivitz is in good shape, as you just heard. Kittle's your tight end. Duh. Pearsall, McCaffrey, Juszczyk, Purdy. That's what you got. As far as the backup receivers, they've got Jacob Cowing listed there as a number 2. I think Russell Gage will beat him out for that second position. Tariq Owens is not going to make this football team. Maybe he'll be on the practice squad. DeMarcus Robinson, the backup at wide receiver, has looked really good. Jordan Watkins today had another great game, or another great day. Junior Bergen is certainly on the bubble. He's a return guy, but I think they have some of those guys, maybe with the injury to Guerrero and a couple other ones to Cowing. Maybe he could make this team, but there's the receivers right there. No real shocks or surprises on the offense, and even in this, as far as the depth is concerned. But let's go to the defense. This was where it gets kind of interesting. So you see on the defensive line, Mikael Williams is going to be a starter on 1. And again, this is just early. Kevin Givens is hurt, and they've got him listed there, so he's not going to be that guy. Jordan Elliott, I think they're going to start. Nick Bosa, I think they're going to start. If I was a betting man, I think one of the starting defensive tackles is going to be CJ West. He's been that good. Now he's mentioned as a third stringer here. That's not happening. Alfred Collins is going to take a minute. I don't think they're going to put Collins and Elliott together because they're kind of the same kind of guy. I think they want some push in the middle. That's going to be CJ West. So if I was betting right now, I'd say Mikael Williams, CJ West, Jordan Elliott, Nick Bosa. Most of the time they're having 2 linebackers on the field. That's Warner and Winters. Renardo Green's got to come back. Looking at the secondary, Renardo Green's got to come back from that hamstring. That's supposed to be Raiders week. Lenore's starting. Pinnock and Brown are the safeties right now, but that could change. And they mentioned Trey Brown in the slot over Upton Stout. That ain't happening. Upton Stout's the starter in the nickel. Trey Brown was hurt a lot in Seattle. He's a veteran player. I understand why they would put him in there. Upton Stout has had such a good camp. You've heard that a million times. Upton Stout is going to be your nickel corner. So there is no real surprises on that list to me. Upton Stout's not the backup. I mean, to me, it's just, CJ West is not the 3rd string defensive tackle, that kind of stuff. So it's not really a real accurate depth chart for the first unofficial depth chart of the season. There's not a whole lot of surprises there. The only jobs that were really even open, to be honest, what happened to Lund? Had to stage. Because I was messing around so much with it. Here, I'm here. The only real jobs that were open when training camp started were, because of injuries, the wide receiver position and left guard, but that's going to be Ben Barch. The Niners really like him, believe me. Offensively, you're looking at the receivers. If Jennings is not healthy, Robinson is out the first 2 games, Cowing doesn't come back from his injury, Pearsall, Gage, and it's going to be ugly at Seattle. The receiver position could be ugly at Seattle. And we're going to get into Jennings' situation in just a second. I expect him to be back for some weird reason. But so I think first week it's going to be Jennings, Pearsall. And if I was a betting man, just because it's week number 1 and Robinson's not going to be playing, I just think he's going to trust Russell Gage. I like Jordan Watkins. I don't think he's going to start a rookie in week 1 at Seattle with that roaring crowd. I think it's Russell Gage, a guy who's been in Tampa, Atlanta, having a good camp. I think Gage might be the guy just because he's a veteran for the first couple of weeks, and then they'll change things up again. So is that good enough? I don't know, but that's what I think. So there's that. Let me play Purdy's been that good, and then we'll get the Jennings situation, and then we'll go NFL wire on you. By the way, questions, comments, thoughts, hit me up. There's a few things on the chat line that I'm going to get to because a lot of people are talking in the chat room, and a couple of things have caught my eye. So if you want to hit me up in the chat room, I will be answering questions shortly. And if you want to 100% get your questions, comments, or thoughts on the air and on the show, all you got to do is hit me up with a super. Very, very simple to do. And by the way, if you're on any other platform, come on over to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and keep those alerts on. And you can hang out in the chat room with us. And make sure that you say hello so that everybody can welcome you because it's a great chat room. All right, Purdy's been that good. Purdy is in that group now that we don't really even talk about in training camp. Because what am I going to say? Fred Warner's really good. George Kittle's really good. Christian McCaffrey's really good. Like, there's nothing really to say. You've seen them on Sundays. They've proven themselves over and over again. Unless there's an injury, I won't really even talk about those guys because it's like, what do you want me to say? Kittle's having a great camp. Bosa's having a great camp. He's been out for 3 days. That mildly concerns me, but they said that he's out and just working on the side. But that's weird that he's out 3 days. But okay, I'll take your word for it that he's not hurt. And I did see him, moving around. And so, okay. So I don't even mention those guys. Dima Lenore is kind of getting on that list too. If he makes a play, I'll mention it, something like that. If McCaffrey makes a great catch down the sidelines, which I've seen him do a couple of times in camp, the way he's running, the way he's bursting through holes. And the only reason I bring up McCaffrey is he's coming back from an injury. And a lot of people are doubting him. And fantasy football people, they'll pop in and they'll be like, hey, what's he look like? I have friends texting me, hey, what does McCaffrey look like? Looks great. And if you pass up, if he's, I don't know, if he's on the board and you're picking 4th, then you waited too long. Like, it's going to be what? Saquon Barkley and, there'll be a number of guys, but I mean, like top 5. McCaffrey's top 5, I think. I mean, he's going to be that good, but whatever. But that's the only reason I talk about McCaffrey at all is because it might be an injury. But Brock is in that group now. And Brock is having a great camp. I don't keep camp stats. I think they're the stupidest damn thing ever. I get it. Twitter never stops. Social media never stops. The thirst for information for an NFL team never stops. It's insatiable for people. They just can't get enough. But camp stats are stupid. And you'll see why with like the Bronco practices, because you know what's coming. They know what's coming defensively. You've ran that play a million times. You're not game planning against your own defense. Hell, they're not even game planning for the Broncos. They're just on Saturday or Thursday. They're going to run what they're going to run. And Kyle and Sean Payton have talked about, here's what we're going to run and all these kind of things, and they can control it and they like it. But, it's a different defense. So how Brock performs against Denver, that's a storyline on Thursday. But as far as camp is concerned, I don't know. If I'm just saying a general day for Brock Purdy is probably like the ball hitting the ground a couple of times, maybe an interception, but a lot of times that interception, he's working with receivers he never worked with. They're wrong. He's not wrong. He's moving in the pocket. He said he worked on different angles throwing the ball. He's just been great in camp. There's nothing else to say. Everyone, I don't care. I'm beyond the stage 2 where I care what anybody thinks. So-and-so's list of quarterbacks. He thinks this is the Mount Rushmore. This is the top 5. This is the top 10. Brock's not in it. Oh, I'm outraged. I'm not outraged. I don't care that he's not in your top 5. I don't care. Here's Christian McCaffrey. The NFL Network was in town today during training camp, and David Carr asked Christian McCaffrey why he likes playing with Brock so much.
It's like you watch him in Kyle's offense, you watch him rip through his progressions. He finds Christian like he's the 5th guy down in the red zone. He still finds a way to get it to him. Like, can you just help us out? Just talk about Brock Purdy.
Can I just stop for a second? I'm going to let him finish, and that's David Carr with the slick back hair. Look at McCaffrey's legs. I mean, seriously. I mean, the dude is, he's not even 6 foot, and it's just like, the dude is like, got Hulk legs. Anyway.
Just briefly, kind of his brilliance and why you think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, playing with Brock is so special because, he does such a good job of just doing his job. But then people forget how good he is at making plays that are unscripted. And maybe one time he sees something that's covered and he knows it's not covered, and playing with instinct and swagger. And that's something that, it's tough to coach that because that's just confidence. That's him being him. And I think that's what makes him so special is his ability to make any throw on the field, do it on time, but also those unscripted plays, the scrambles, and just making plays with his feet, with his arm. Some of those things you just can't teach, and that's what makes playing with him so
we're just
going
to roll that clip next time someone asks about Brock Purdy. Right?
Yeah.
Let Christian just handle it.
Yeah, have it at the ready control room.
Yeah.
But
let me explain too what he's talking about, because this is something that Brock made a conscious effort in the offseason to get better at. He does have good feet. He does have good legs. And, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he's not Tom Brady either in regards of the pocket. And so what he did in the offseason in his big new Nashville home was he worked a lot on different arm angles, watched a lot of different quarterbacks and like arm angles, because you're always, and especially him, he's not the tallest guy at 6'1". So if you're 6'5", if you're Justin Herbert in there, you're not going to have to work as many arm angles. Justin Herbert has basically got that, over the top motion, somebody like that, or a Josh Allen. But at times, and Patrick Mahomes is the master of this, and I know we all hate him here, but the master of the different arm angle is Patrick Mahomes. And that's Brock Purdy looked at that and said, you know what? I need to learn to do that better, because I'm not just going to stand back at 6'1" in the pocket and just pick my guys. I can't do it. Blind throws. That was part of the problem last year. He had too many blind throws. There was too much pressure. High, straight up the middle. Who's there? But he was getting the pocket pushed a lot of times, and he was throwing blind. And so what he's trying to do is he's, around linemen, moving around, when I'm moving and on the move, what kind of different arm angles. So we worked on a lot of different arm angles. And that's one of the things this year where, he is that guy that can create out of the pocket. He's going to, that's one thing. And everybody thinks that like Brock is a complete, but he's not. He's still a really young quarterback. He's still improving, but he knows the offense better. He's more confident in it. He's leading guys. He's even being, stepped up another realm as a leader. There's just a lot of things that the coaches are talking about. But like I said, one of the funny things about this camp is nobody's talking about him. He's the quarterback. He's always been talked about his first few years in the league, whether it be an injury and he's coming back from it. And when can he come back? That was a couple of years ago. But it's just kind of become one of those things where it's like, what are you going to say? He's steady. He's good. He's smart. People who don't know the game don't realize that getting through the progressions like he gets through them Christian said this a little bit later in the interview, is that, a lot of times McCaffrey is maybe the number 1 or 2 read, but a lot of times McCaffrey's just kind of a safety valve, like the 5th read. And Brock gets to it so fast, like boom, 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 boom. And Christian loves it. I mean, he's just like, it's amazing how quickly he can process this stuff. And I told you this story the other night. I was watching an interview with Brady, and it was at the Super Bowl. I was just flipping through stuff last year's Super Bowl, and he said, the thing is, I don't have to snap the ball if I don't like the read of the defense. And so many guys are like, they're just young quarterbacks, and they just snap the ball anyway. And they don't know what the defense is going to do. Brady knew what the defense was going to do just by the set that he looked at. And he was like, okay, I have 3 plays in my head, and I can just turn and change it to that one, or I can change to the third one, whatever the case may be. Brock's got that same responsibility. He'll come up to the line, and he'll have 3 plays, and he'll look. And he knows, too, not to the extent of Brady. I'm not saying that. But he doesn't start reading the defense when the ball is snapped. He walks up to the line and looks and says, okay, I know what they're going to do. Either this play is going to work or it's not. And I call out of that play. Even if it's a 2-yard gain versus a 5-yard loss, that can keep a drive going. And so those are the things that young quarterbacks don't realize. And he got from day one. I mean, just the intricacies of the position. Yeah, he doesn't have the strongest arm. Yeah, he ain't the tallest guy. But the things that he does, you don't really measure, And that's reading a defense before the ball is snapped. By the way, if you can't read the defense before the ball is snapped, you got 2.2 seconds and a 300-pounder is trying to kill you. And by the way, you got to read 5 routes in those 2.2 seconds. Best of luck if you don't know what the defense is going to do. Brady read the defense and knew what they were going to do before the ball was snapped. So the game slowed down for him. And that's what Brock does. I mean, there's really nothing to say, man, because it's just like the whole time. What am I going to say? Like, even I'll go out there sometimes, and it'll be like, all right, I'll take a little bit of video of them, but I'm just like, same old. It's just Brock being Brock. I'm going to play this Kittle for you, but I'm also going to explain something after Kittle. But anyway, something got banned today. This is pretty funny. Something got banned today, and Kittle's pissed because he would do this before every drive, and then I got a great story for you. So here's George Kittle. It's NFL Network again, and he's crashing the set where Fred Warner is. Take a look at this.
We were always going to have a chance. You know what I'm saying? And,
Okay, hold on. So he crashes this thing, all right? And I'm going to tell you why in just a second. But I'm just going to give you a little point of reference when I'm talking about being down at camp. So you see right behind these guys, there's a scoreboard, and then there's kind of a fence right there. That's on the far field. So there's 2 100-yard fields. That's on the far end, right? That's where we stand, all right? So we stand there, and the closest field we can see stuff. The furthest field we can't see stuff. And that's kind of where, and then if you see that white tent behind Kittle, that's where the fans sit down there. And we kind of go from that side where that scoreboard is over there and over to that. And then sometimes if there's a scrimmage, we'll go over to that other field. But they just kind of keep us on the outside walking around that whole time. And we do our best to shoot video and send stuff to you and overreact to like one play in a camp practice. So that just gives you kind of a background of what's going on when we're down there. All right, continue.
We're just right there, buddy.
What's up,
George?
I didn't even know he was there.
Good.
I was just letting Fred finish.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
great.
appreciate that.
Yeah, get out of here, dude. What are you doing?
Yeah, this is the linebacker
Holy
time.
smokes.
Worse.
Now it's a 4-shot. That's right. We can pan out. Look at us.
Wow,
we can get everybody
that's
in.
not a bad looking
sorry for
picture right there.
interrupting.
Look at that.
Everybody's in now.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I mean, the goal, of course, is being in Levi's, beginning of 2026. That's always the goal.
Sure. And George, hello, friend. How are you?
I honestly just came up here to air a grievance.
Oh.
Our team got a memo today that smelling salts and ammonia packets were made illegal in the NFL.
Wow.
And I've been distraught all day.
Okay.
Illegal?
He even said that he's not practicing anymore.
I considered retirement.
Yeah. So they go ahead and bring that back for George Kittle. If
Yeah,
you're hearing
so
this,
we got to figure
Mr.
out
Goodell.
a middle ground here, guys.
Yeah.
Somebody help me out. Somebody come up with a good idea.
Send
Fred,
the
it's
email.
on you.
Airing of grievances.
Yeah, that's all I had to get out there. I'll get that off my chest.
Is it before every drive is a
I'm an every drive. I'm an every drive guy.
I've seen
Every
guys
down.
like that.
I'm an every drive guy.
In between every play, he
No,
keeps
that's
one
too
in
much.
his socks,
That's
pulls out the
That's
sock.
way too much.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like the energy's still out here, though. I mean,
No, definitely. But I missed those already.
Well, they haven't been outlawed at practice.
No, we don't have them out practice.
Okay, all right, just checking.
That's all right. That was my only grievance, but besides that, you guys look fabulous.
We'll
Friend,
fix it.
it's all yours.
Thank you.
George, we'll do.
So there you go. No smelling salts anymore. And I can confirm George Kittle did those before every series. But here's I got a great story for you. So I would be up in the booth. Papa, who I know is getting better, is next to Tim Ryan. Then I sit on the next level. And before the fourth quarter, Tim Ryan would turn, of course, the analyst for the 49ers. And I saw people talking about this before, so I'll run this into some news that just came out. But Tim Ryan turns to you before the fourth quarter starts, and he's got those ammonia packets in his hand. And he goes, "Let's go, bro." And if you don't do it, then Tim's going to like elbow you in the neck at some point. I've had it happen. Chest, neck. He's a big boy. He still goes to the gym every day. He's a big boy. And so you do it. And he just, before the fourth quarter starts, I'm not playing, but before the fourth quarter starts, every game in the booth, he's got those on him, and he sticks them under your nose, and you're like, if I wasn't awake now, if I wasn't awake then, I am now. So we're all ready for the fourth quarter, and Tim's going like this. He's holding up his four fingers. And then, he's putting up the smelling salts, and you're like, bro. So anyway, just saying. I know what he's talking about with those things. Because, he's doing the smelling salts. So anyway, that's a fact. So they are, I don't know if they're going to be removed from the booth because Tim Ryan's going to be pissed, but they are removed. So there you go. That is the latest as far as that goes. And then one more thing. I talked about this yesterday, but then people are starting to pick it up. People are starting to talk about it more. Is Jauan Jennings out of camp because of a calf injury, or is Jauan Jennings out because of his contract situation? Well, let me play the Richard Sherman for you. Maybe you missed this, maybe you saw it. But I got the Sherman thing in here, or did I not load that thing up? No. I thought I loaded it up. Let me see. I'll load it up right now. Hold on a minute. It's at the bottom here, right here. All right, so here's Sherm, and then I spliced in Kyle Shanahan's response yesterday. So this is first you're going to see Richard Sherman on his podcast questioning whether Jauan Jennings is really hurt or if it's a contract thing. You'll hear Kyle Shanahan and then Pro Football Talk, and of course Mike Florio, who does not have good sources within the 49ers building, opines on it as well. So here you go. Oh, yeah. There you go. That'll be it.
Looking in, if you're just looking at it objectively, knowing what you know, you say, okay, Jauan Jennings had this injury, and calf injuries are nagging, and they take a while, and you don't want them to come back because once they come back, you got to sit 3-4 weeks anyway. So I understand the patience, and hey, we're gonna take our time. We're gonna make sure we get it right. But from the outside looking in, when you make those demands, it could look like you're holding in. And so I'm glad Kyle Shanahan got ahead of it and said, hey, no, this is an injury. We understand. We're all on the same page here, and I respect that. That's how you put fires out. I think they're going to have to do something. I think they're going to have to appease him. And I think once they do, there might be a chance that he's back in practice that day. I don't know. It kind of seems that way, though.
Anything new on Jauan Jennings?
Same thing with his calf.
It's definitely health-related, not business-related?
You can ask him that, but he tells me it's his calf, and the calf shows, so it's got to be delicate with those calves.
All right, here's why I know. I'm going to show you a Mike Florio thing in a second, but Mike Florio, just so you know, doesn't have great contacts in the 49ers building, and he's always speculating over things. He thought Brady was going to come here, never did. Thought Aaron Rodgers was going to come here, never did. Like all these different things he hasn't been right on with the 49ers. So he might have sources at the league level, some agents, whatever, but he doesn't have a source, I don't think, a good one in the 49ers HQ. So at the end there, when Kyle Shanahan said, when Cam Inman asked him, it's definitely calf related and not business related. And Kyle said something to the effect of, well, he says it's a calf injury. It shows it's a calf injury, but you're going to have to ask him. Well, he's injured, so we can't ask him. And Kyle knows that. But I think just knowing Kyle's personality, it's kind of tongue in cheek. We're telling you it's a calf. You're basically saying I'm lying. Go ask him then. I mean, that's kind of how Kyle does it. Been around him enough since he was hired in 2017, talked to him many times. You can read his body language and kind of the way he does things, and he's kind of smart alecky in that way. So I think he was just like, well, I told you what I told you. It's a calf injury, and if you don't believe me, go ask him, which he knows you can't. So then on PFT today, Pro Football Talk, this is Mike Florio. He says it could be a combination of health and business. If Jennings was happy with his contract, maybe he'd push through it. Because he isn't happy with his contract, he isn't. So first of all, let me stop there. Because Richard Sherman said this even on his podcast. You don't mess with calf injuries. If it is a true calf injury, it probably takes 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how severe. He had this in OTAs. That was a fact before I even started talking about the contract. You don't push through calf injuries. So maybe he'd push through it. So he's inaccurate there. Jennings in the second year, blah, 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 blah. Contract light, blah, 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 blah. Last year, Jennings, 77 for 975, blah, 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 blah. And then he says, with Ayuk recovering, Debo gone from a torn ACL during the 20-minute, Jennings seems to merit an increase. He may not be doing much until he gets one. So in other words, he is buying into the fact that maybe Jauan Jennings is faking it. Now, look, I'm not saying 100% he's not, but I'm not saying it based on what Kyle Shanahan said. And Florio's kind of suggesting that, Kyle said, go ask him. So maybe he opened the door there. I don't think he opened the door. I think it's just him. That's the way he answers questions. So that's how I'm looking at that. Now, Richard Sherman may know something. He's got contacts around the league. He was at practice yesterday. He talks to guys. He did the podcast before he was out at Niners camp. That was later in the day. And I'm sure that was pre-recorded a day or two ago. So he hadn't talked to anybody in the Niners, and he probably did. And he probably found out. And he probably saw Jauan. So who knows? I knew a couple of weeks ago in talking to some people that they were working on something, that it wasn't going to be a 1-year deal. He's only making this year, I think, 9.75. So yeah, they were working on something that I had heard was a 2-year deal in the range of about $12 million per. They weren't going to go beyond 2 years, but they were going to give him more than 1 year. And so that's what the track that I heard that they were on. And then I haven't heard anything in a couple of weeks. So it's very possible that he could be going, yeah, sorry, I'm not going to do it. But to say that he doesn't have an injury, Kyle just said it shows. In other words, they looked at it and it's legit. And calf injuries, I told you this early in this calf thing, and maybe it's not this, but calves sometimes all of a sudden turns into an Achilles. So they're just not going to mess with it. So if it was a different kind of an injury, this, that, which, a typical injury that might be a fake injury, a knee tendonitis or something, or sore this or that, or a bruise, or there are certain things that are code words for that's not really an injury, but it is. Calf usually isn't one because they do linger and they do take time. And at this point of the season, and it hasn't even started, you're not going to take a chance on a guy. Jauan Jennings is not a rookie. He can come in and play with like Bosa did, right? Bosa a couple of years ago signs the contract, that week plays. Jauan Jennings can do that too. Like if Jauan Jennings had this calf injury up until like the final week of camp, he'd be playing week 1. So it's not like, oh man, he's missing all this practice time and he never throws with Brock. They're fine. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about the Jennings situation. Officially, I'm not worried about it. Number one, I don't think he's faking it. And number two, I'm just not worried. I just don't think that there is an issue there. So anyway, there you go. All right, let me answer some questions before we get to the NFL wire. And that's just basically taking a look around the NFL, kind of widening out the lens a little bit. And a couple of things have to do with, we'll hear from Sean Payton. We'll hear from Jerry Jones. We'll hear from Sean McVay is an interesting one. We'll hear from Sean McVay in here as well. And plus Hard Knocks started tonight. So we'll get into that conversation in just a second as we take a look around the NFL wire. But one thing I heard, I saw people talking about in the chat room. And again, you can hit me up with the super, or I'm going to look through some of these and discuss them in the chat room at John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Guy Haberman, who's a really good friend of mine. I worked with Guy at 95.7 The Game years and years ago. I had a successful podcast with Middlecoff, and he's been a friend of mine for over 10 years. I saw that he's going to take the place of Papa in the preseason, and I couldn't be happier. This dude, from the minute he came from Fresno to the Bay, is and has been a professional. He's great. He's funny, great personality, but when it comes to play-by-play, the guy, I think he's massively underrated. So he's going to do those broadcasts with Tim for the preseason. And I believe it's Fitz does the radio side of things, and Guy Haberman will do the TV side with Tim Ryan. And there couldn't be a better guy. I mean, it just couldn't be a better guy. They chose Bob Sargent is probably the one that chose. He is the director of broadcasting of the 49ers and another friend of mine, and couldn't have done a better job in choosing a guy like Guy Haberman. Dude is awesome. I mean, he's just awesome. His play-by-play is awesome, but he's even better as a person. I consider him a good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast before. We're going to try to get him back on here soon to congratulate him on that. But he's an awesome guy. I mean, just Guy Haberman's an awesome guy, and you'll dig watching him on TV. So he's going to do the preseason game starting with Saturday night's game against Denver. And I'm sure I'll see Guy on Thursday because he's getting ready for the game. So anyway, that's very cool that Guy Haberman is going to do that. So what other questions do we have before we go NFL wire around the NFL? Hi, Danny. It's good to see you, my friend. Great to see some names that were hitting us in the morning show, and it's good to see some new names that we have not seen before. Hi, Big Brick. It's good to see you. Again, any questions, comments, thoughts on training camp so far? camp battles as the first unofficial depth chart comes out, but it's not a good one. It's not even close. There's like guys sitting on third string that are not third string. Upton Stout is not your second string nickel behind Trey Brown. I can tell you that. So it's not very accurate, to be completely honest. And like I said, this is not a Kyle chart. This is not a Lynch chart. This is not a Niners chart. It's somebody you just don't hear. The 1420 says, pay the man. You're talking about Jauan Jennings. Look, I'm not saying they shouldn't pay him. And I told you this right when this Jauan Jennings thing started. I do think it's a calf injury. It could be a combination of things, but I do think it's a calf injury. Doesn't mean they can't negotiate while he has the calf injury. I'm a little surprised that something didn't get done because remember, last year Trent Williams held out. Christian McCaffrey asked for a few more bucks. They got those things done. Ayuk got done, even though it was kind of the last second. But if Jauan Jennings, I think it's only fair. Now, if Jennings is asking for what they just got rid of Debo for, and they're eating all this money, like I told you, if he's wanting like $20 million a year, Jauan Jennings is not getting that. If he wants to do something reasonable, to say, I think it's $7.5 million that he's making this year. That the $7.5 million, you're right, because you're going to be our pseudo number one wide receiver with Brandon Ayuk out. If you want more, yeah, that makes sense. And we'll do you like 2 and 24, something like that. I think that's a fair number. And I had heard that that's kind of what they were doing, but I could be wrong. By the way, I did not mention before I go to that Dre and Huff return. We'll get more into that tomorrow. And I'll tell you the story because I want to get to NFL Wire. I'll tell you the story about Dre tomorrow night. I'll tell you the story about what happened with Dre and the Niners tomorrow night. So we'll get into that conversation plus HUFANGA and the whole offseason. We'll just kind of use that to talk about the offseason, the guys they lost and all that kind of stuff. So we'll do that more tomorrow. But anyway, let me make sure that we don't have any more questions on the Niners before we get to the Wire. Anything else? Hi, Philip. It's good to see you. Let's see. All right. Let's do it. Let me get to the music. I just made this today, though. Look at this. This is very fancy.
It's time for a look at the NFL stories making headlines. It's the NFL Wire on John Lund Unleashed.
All right, so what we'll do here is we'll widen out the lens because there's a lot of Niners news in camp, but you want to stay up on the rest of the NFL, especially when it does affect the 49ers. So we're going to hear from Sean Payton, how they're going to handle these practices in the game. We're going to hear from Pretty Sean McVay. We're going to hear, we're going to see a little Hard Knocks, and we're going to hear Jerry Jones and talk about Micah. So let's hit you around the NFL with the NFL Wire. Here first is Sean Payton, head coach of the Broncos. This is Mike Silver asking him the question, by the way. And he's asked about how he's going to handle these practices with the Niners and if he's going to play his players, first stringers, on Saturday night. I know Kyle isn't. Here's Sean Payton from Broncos training camp.
We'll meet. We travel Wednesday night. We'll probably meet tomorrow night to discuss the roles. I'll speak with Kyle between now and then. We've already got the format of the practice laid out. We've already got the itinerary laid out until next Tuesday. So, with regards to the game or practice?
Well, both, because when doing practice,
yeah, not so much. There's this feeling that, if I practice them a bunch, then I'm not going to play them in the game. We're playing guys in the game.
So that's where the difference kind of lies right there between Sean Payton and Kyle Shanahan is Kyle, and he said this the other day at his press conference, actually yesterday. He said, look, and this is always how Kyle has done it. Now, certain coaches do certain things, especially now. When it was four preseason games, it was pretty much noted that some coaches might play guys in the first quarter, play them a couple of series, and they're out, certainly in the first game. Second game, they didn't play much. Third game, it was pretty much the walkthrough when they had 4. And then the fourth game, you didn't play anybody. The way it works now with 3, they use the second one as kind of the walkthrough. They certainly don't play anybody in the third one. That's more like the old fourth one. And in the first, it really just depends. Sean McVay, who you're going to hear from in a minute, they don't play anybody in the preseason, the Rams. Again, you've got to play some guys. You got to field 22 guys. So not every starter gets the time off. A lot of times what teams will do who don't play their starters a lot in the preseason, they'll at least put their offensive linemen on there, or they'll rotate some defensive linemen because they want to get those guys kind of lathered up for the season. They don't want to get him hurt, but they want to get the continuity, especially if they have new guys in the offensive line. They want to get the big horses going, lathered up a little bit, that kind of thing, because they've got to work on continuity. An offensive line, defensive line, they get, especially with the Niners, with their young guys. Like, I saw the other day that, like, Atlanta's not going to play Michael Penix. It's like, why? Because he's so established? Like, that dude needs to play. J.J. McCarthy of the Vikings, he's their starter, but it's like, well, he hasn't proven anything. J.J. McCarthy's got to see a different team. So it just depends. I think the Niners, they're young guys. You don't want to get them hurt, and I get that. But Mikael Williams needs to play. Collins needs to play. C.J. West needs to play. Now, again, Kyle's philosophy is, I'm not playing my starters. There'll be no Trent Williams. There'll be no Bosa. If you got preseason tickets, I'm sorry to tell you, there is no Purdy. There is no McCaffrey. Like, those dudes ain't playing. That's how Kyle's going to use it. He uses Thursday as basically the game, and that's exactly what he said. And Saturday's whatever. And Sean Payton's doing it a totally different way. So it just depends. And then everybody has to debate whether, somebody's right or somebody's wrong. Well, this guy got off to a bad start. This team got off to a good start. It's like, whatever, man. They just played bad, or they played, whatever. At this level, these guys can pick it up. And there's so many practices. And they have joint practice against the Broncos. And then in a couple of weeks, they have joint practices against against the Raiders in Vegas. So they're going to get plenty of work. Now, this is what's interesting to me. And again, it comes down to some reporter instincts here, having done this a little while. And when a coach kind of avoids something or is very vague when he talks about something, then your antennas start to go up a little bit. So I don't have this third clip in here, but let me just tell you, let me just set this up. So Sean McVay today is asked about Matthew Stafford. And then after the two questions about Matthew Stafford that you're going to hear, who's got a back problem right now and isn't practicing, there's a third question that I cut out. And I can just tell you about it. And it's about Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, the former Niners quarterback, and he's the backup in L.A. And McVay goes on and on and on till the break of dawn about how much he loves Jimmy and how much respect he has for Jimmy and this and that. And he led the Niners to a Super Bowl. Not exactly. He was in the game and he played in it. He didn't lead them. Just because you're a quarterback doesn't mean you lead them to the Super Bowl. Their defensive line led them to the Super Bowl, but whatever. Semantics maybe. But he's talking up Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm going, okay, why is he talking up Jimmy Garoppolo and being so evasive on the questions about Matthew Stafford? Does this mean that this Stafford thing could really linger? Because remember, a couple of years ago when Stafford's 36, he wasn't exactly right and the Rams didn't have a good season. When he's right, the Rams are tough because they got enough offensive weapons. Like I said, they're always going to score with McVay around, and defensively, they've got a bunch of young, good players. So they're probably, I think they're the favorites in the NFC West. But that is unless Matthew Stafford can't play. So you give me your feel on this when I play McVay here. It's a little weird, which is for Niners fans. I don't wish injury on anybody, but for Niners fans, this is kind of good news.
No, just because he'll be doing a workout on his own during that time period, and so he is able to do a little bit more, which is good, and things are progressing well, but he won't take part in the jog through because he'll be doing some other stuff during
these workouts on his own. What do those entail?
You'll have to ask Reggie Scott a little bit more particularly, but it's really just kind of it's static throwing. It's some of the unloaded running on the treadmill. Sometimes it might even be walking. He's able to do a little bit of lighter cardio and able to do some good core work, but it's more just functional strength surrounding the area while making sure that you don't do anything to set yourself back based on the trajectory that he's doing. But we are looking forward to getting him and easing him back into football, hopefully, in the near future.
I mean, these coaches are so good at being evasive and evading these questions. He just said basically, he didn't say anything. Stafford's working out. He's not with us. This, that. He's had a back problem before. I mean, you don't have to be, Inspector Clouseau to realize that there's something going on. I could be wrong, and Stafford could be back in week 1. But as you look at the NFC West right now, and again, we'll see this. Arizona's not ready to be a contender. I think Seattle's going to have a really good defense. Remember, Mike McDonald's their head coach, second year. Ran that Baltimore defense that gave the Niners so much trouble. He's a good defensive coordinator, and they keep adding to that defense. They're going to be good defensively. Offensively, I don't know. It all rides on the shoulders of Sam Darnold. And I remember Sam a couple of years ago, as the backup quarterback. So I don't know. He had a good year in Minnesota. When you have Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, and they got a hell of an offensive system in Minnesota, and Jordan Addison and all those guys, pretty good offensive line. You can look pretty good. Darisaw protecting your blind side. You can be pretty good. So he was good. They beat the Niners. He hit Jefferson on that long pass. Darnold was good last year. Can he do it again in Seattle? They don't have nearly the weapons. They let go of DK. They let go of Lockett. They didn't have much of a running game. They always have a shitty offensive line. So Mike McDonald and the Seahawks are going to have a good defense. Offensively, I'm just not sure if Darnold's good. And I know they got Cooper Kupp, who's a little bit older. Smith and Jigba broke out last year. They got this kid Arroyo from Miami that's a really nice tight end. They could, but it's all going to be on the shoulders of Darnold. So they're going to be there. They're a pain in the ass to the Niners. And then there's the Rams, who should be, I'm sorry, but they should be the favorite in the division. And so I look at them, and I still think the Niners make the playoffs, but because of the bad schedule too. But, if Stafford's not playing and Jimmy's playing, all bets are off. And that's just how it is. We know that here. All bets are off. And Jimmy was terrible at the Raiders. I mean, he was awful. So I know that McVay's McVay, and he can, do some things. And they've got Puka Nacua, and they've got Devontae Adams now, and they have Kyron Williams, and they have guys. There's no doubt. They have guys. But if Jimmy's running the ship instead of Matthew Stafford, that is a massive downgrade. There's nothing to say about it. Matthew Stafford, when healthy, I think, you got the top 4 quarterbacks, and we all know who they are. And then you start having a debate of who's number 5. If Matthew Stafford's healthy, he's probably number 5. I mean, he's that good. And we know that. It's LA, I get it. But let's, if we're being honest, and he's on his game and healthy, he's right there. And let's just say, to be nice, Jimmy's not. All right, this happened tonight. I haven't watched this, but it is back. And I just want to ask you a question about it real quick.
The best thing that you can do between a quarterback and receiver is have that open line of communication, understanding each other's expectations of when I'm thinking of releasing a ball or where he's expecting that ball to be, and then going out there and trying to marry them up.
What's that? So it's the Bills, not a large market team. Fireball's own Josh Allen there, and he's an interesting guy. I don't know how many storylines the Bills have in their training camp. I don't know. I guess a long time ago, I kind of got over it. I mean, if it's on, I might watch it or something like that. If it's the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, I'd always watch it. If it was an interesting team, you got Rex Ryan the one year with the foot fetishes and the cursing and all that kind of stuff. You had Gruden with the Raiders and Antonio Brown coming in on a hot air balloon to Napa, right? I mean, certain teams, I'd be interested in. I'd watch the Rams because, I remember the Rams a couple of years ago. I think they did the Rams and Chargers both, right? And that was kind of interesting. That was pre-Harbaugh. So, I mean, there's certain teams that I'd be like, oh, absolutely. Philly, I would watch Philly. Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers and DK. And that, their head coach is always, Mike Tomlin's always an interesting guy to hear. So there's certain teams, but I'm looking at Buffalo going, Hard Knocks is okay. I might catch an episode to see if it's any good and then go from there. But, the fun parts, I mean, this isn't fun, but the parts that are like human, like they cut a guy. Now they won't even show that anymore. It's like, come on, man. Let me see it. The Turk knocks on the door. Bring your playbook. And it's like, oh. And the guy's gone. Like, that's it. It's like, oh, that sucks. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to watch it. We'll see. So there's Josh Allen and the Bills, and that started tonight. And then finally, let's talk about this. And this continues to be the big story around the NFL, if we widen the lens or in the NFL wire, which is Jerry Jones and Mike. And I've told you, I covered the Cowboys years ago, and Jerry was the owner, and Jerry likes publicity, I think, more than he likes winning football games. One of the best things that Jed York ever did with the 49ers is he quit sending tweets. He quit reacting off of losses. He quit making himself available during good times and bad. He just said, I'm the owner. I hired these guys to do a job. I'm going to stay out of the way. And the only time I'm going to be seen is if I hoist a trophy, the Super Bowl trophy, because that's what Eddie D did, and that's what his family did. And he's sitting behind the scenes. He's not even Eddie D as far as being seen. But Jerry Jones, after games, especially after bad games, would wait for the media, would go out to a certain spot and wait for the media. That's what he wants to do. He wants to run the team. He wants to be the guy. There is no bigger star on the Cowboys than him. That's why he won't hire a big name coach. He doesn't want Parcells anymore. Didn't get along with Jimmy after a while. You know, he's never going to hire a high profile coach. And when people would say that to me, having experienced myself, I'm like, they're not hiring that guy. Every year it's like, oh, they're going to hire this big name guy. And they get Mark McCarthy. They're going to hire this big name guy. They get Jason Garrett. They're going to hire this big name guy. They get Brian Schottenheimer, their head coach now. They're not going to do that. Jerry's not sharing the stage. So when you hear this Micah Parsons stuff, it's going to get done. Like, he's not getting traded. And these people, here are the 5 most likely destinations. He's not getting traded. Jerry likes that they're talking about him on ESPN and NFL Network. Their first game's against who? Philly. Once he gets the Parsons deal done, then the focus shifts to Philly, especially for that first game. Oh my God, Jalen Hurts is great. Oh my God, the Eagles are great. Oh my God, this defense. They're going to win it back to back. You know, and it's all about Philly. But until then, it's about the star and it's about Dallas. What did he do last year? Signed CD last minute, signed Dak last minute. That's what he does. Because when people are talking about him, he has the philosophy of there is no bad PR. So here is Jerry Jones at Dallas Cowboys training camp, which is a circus in and of himself, talking about Micah Parsons' situation.
I think the relationship is what it is. What y'all don't know is what I offered him. And it's a hell of a lot more than you think I did. When you're guaranteeing somebody almost $200 million, that's sensitive stuff.
When he put out the note yesterday saying he'd asked for a trade, did that make you angry?
Not a bit.
The deal, the offer you had in March, the meeting of the minds, is that still on the table?
Micah took it off.
He took it off, so it's not on the table.
He took it off. No, he took it off. I'm just saying he took it off. Future, I wouldn't be standing here with you if I didn't think we had potentially had a great future with Micah.
Is this fun for you?
What?
This whole ordeal?
Well, I've chosen to do this for my life, and this is important to me. Don't lose any sleep over it.
So just to be
That's
clear,
the one thing I would say to our fans. Don't lose any sleep over it.
That's just Jerry. He just told you it's getting done. A reporter asked him, is this fun for you? He didn't say no. He said, this is what I've chosen in my life. He didn't say, no, this isn't fun. And he stands there forever. You want to keep asking him questions? He'll stand there forever. He loves it. He laps it up. He can't get enough. That fuels him. Like, it's just like, it's just like, give me more. That's what he does. Could you imagine if that was Jed York last year, for example, you're trying to negotiate Brandon Ayuk's contract. And he comes out there and is like, man, here's the deal. Just telling you everything. Oh, it'd piss off a guy. But anyway, there you go. So that is your NFL Wire in addition to Niners news every night. We'll get you that. So Hard Knocks started tonight. If you did see it, I'd like to know what you said, but I'll probably hit it. And it's the Bills. I'm not overly excited. Jerry Jones on Parsons' situation. You saw Kyron Williams, by the way, got a new deal for the Rams, and Matthew Stafford's injury, something to keep an eye on. In addition to, we played you a little bit of head coach of Denver, Sean Payton, who's going to have a little bit of a different way that he's going to approach these practices and the game on Saturday. He says some Broncos are going to be playing in that one. Some starters. Kyle Shanahan's going to play as few as he possibly can. So there you go. That's we're caught up on everything. And people are asking about the sweet, clean, family-friendly caboose pistol. We're not going to lose that. So we're just talking football. We're talking tons of football, but we are not going to. And if you're a regular on the show, if you're not a regular on the show, you're in for a treat. We always do this to end each show. It's the sweet, clean, family-friendly caboose pistol.
John Lund Unleashed presents the caboose pistol.
Wedged in the crack of her buttocks.
Somehow, someway, Lundo thinks this is the best way to leave a final impression on you for the day.
The old caboose pistol, everybody has one.
Did you say caboose pistol?
I know some women who could hide a machine gun in there. Yeah.
Leave me out of this, you weirdo. Here's John.
All right, so it's the strange stories of the day. I've got a good one for you. Just look at this guy. Naked man wearing only a, balaclava and plastic clogs, which, by the way, the clogs, I can't get past it, that they're still, I know there's a naked, gross man right there, but I just can't get past those, that people actually buy those things. Like, it's just unbelievable. Like, whoever the CEO is or the inventor who made billions and billions and billions of dollars off those things, forgot what they're called, but they're terrible. And I wouldn't buy them if they were the last shoes on earth. But anyway, that's not the point. Naked man, balaclava and plastic clogs and carrying sex toy on stick terrifies European tourists. And there's a picture of the man right there. That is terrifying. There's no doubt about it. So then, of course, I asked AI about it, New York Post, and it says this: the incident near Slovakia involves a man engaging in naturism. It is a practice with roots in European counterculture movement since the 1920s, where individuals seek freedom through nudity in nature. Though this case is complicated by the addition of the balaclava, a sex toy, suggesting this is a possible blend with his fetishistic behavior. So there you go. There is the man. It's just the fetish. And what was funny is when I read this, let me show you the guy again. Let me get off the stage. I'm going to have you look at him for another minute because this has to do with this kind of story. I don't know what the mask is all about, though. Like, why are you walking around masked? I mean, you're not going skiing. You're not robbing a bank. I mean, I don't know exactly what you're doing. He could use a couple of sit-ups. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not getting naked if I'm that guy. So I got a story for you. So when I first got divorced, I don't think I've ever told the story in the air. When I first got divorced, I met a girl and we were dating a little while, and then she was into nature and all these different things, and it was cool, it was fine. And one day she said, well, I don't, this after like maybe a month, 3 or 4 dates, 5 dates maybe. She says, I got to tell you something, since we've dated like five times, that I'm a nudist and I go to a nudist colony, and it's kind of a big part of my life. And so, what would you think if we're going to continue? Basically, if we're going to continue this relationship, you have to be good with going to a nudist colony. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm wanting to go to a nudist colony, man. I don't know if that's my bag. And so shortly thereafter, that relationship was disbanded. But yeah, I was thinking to myself, because the thing is, here's what you think. And I've told this story in the air before. So, okay, let's get this guy off the stage, because I just don't think that's really going to work long term. I mean, you get the idea. But you have this vision of like a nudist colony, right? And it's going to be all these, like in a movie or something, like all these hot girls and good looking guys who are in shape. And it's not that. It's not that at all. And think of the naked bike race. I've talked about this, the naked bike race that's nationwide, but I've seen it in San Francisco before. And again, you're thinking to yourself, oh, a naked bike race, that's going to be great. A bunch of in shape people on bikes, and it's going to be hot. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not. It's a bunch of, like, they don't care. Like, it's a guy like that. Like, nudist colonies, I hate to do this to you again. What happened to my mouse here? I hate to do this again, but that's what the kind of people are there at nudist colonies. Right there. That guy. Like, that's what a nudist colony looks like. Basically, he is the dictionary definition of what a nudist colony is. So I'm not down with that. And that's what they look like. And so the naked bike race looks like. That's what nudist colonies look like. Now, this girl was pretty and everything else, but I'm just saying, like, by and large, when you go to like a nudist colony or something, that's what it is. I mean, that guy right there. So there you go. That is your sweet, clean, family-friendly caboose pistol to end every show. You're up in Tahoe doing a little sun tanning, were you? There you go. I have told that story before. I didn't know that. Yeah, it's 100% the truth. 100% the truth. I didn't think I had told that story before, but yeah, it was my first person I dated right after my divorce, and things were going fine. And then she's like, "Yeah, sit down on the couch. There's something I got to tell you. I'm a nudist, and I go to a nudist colony, and it's kind of a big deal that you would go to me with this nudist colony." I'm like, yeah, no, not doing that. Anyway, there you go. That is your sweet, clean, family-friendly caboose pistol. All right, that is episode 212, Tuesday in Camp. We recapped it for you, 11 days in now, 12 days actually. Still need to learn. I gave you tonight the depth chart, which we didn't learn anything off the depth chart. Kyle and John have nothing to do with that, so it's no big deal. Dre and Huff will get more into that return because they're off tomorrow. We'll have a guest on the show tomorrow night as well. I'm not at liberty to speak of that person yet, but we will have a person on the show at 7 o'clock tomorrow on John Lund Unleashed. Saleh spoke tonight. McKivitz and Martin too. Bosa's soreness. If they say it's not a problem, I'll say it's not, but that is 3 consecutive days. Purdy, like Warner and Kittle and Williams, we don't talk about him a lot because he is that good, but CMC told you how good he is when the NFL Network came by, so we played that audio or that video for you. Then we got you out to the NFL Wire, which we'll do every night. Hard Knocks started tonight. Jerry Jones on Parsons. You saw that video. The Rams inked Kyron Williams. And keep an eye, I'm just saying, stick a pin in that with Matthew Stafford because as you heard and saw, Sean McVay was kind of doing a little bit of dance moves around those questions. And when that happens, you're like, oh, very interesting. So that's what happened as far as that goes. How did that get on the screen? The blur of size of a dime. Anyway, there you go. Yeah, guest. I had Mike Pereira on the other day. I had a guest. I had Mike Pereira on the other day. You can see that at John Lund Unleashed. But yeah, tomorrow night, get a guest on and we'll kind of do a recap of what we've seen through 12 practices. Niners are off tomorrow, so it's a perfect time to take a break and talk about what we've seen from camp so far. Then Thursday, we'll be down at the joint practice. We'll give you a full report from there. And then Saturday night is the game. So there you go. Plus, like I said, we added a sweet, clean, family-friendly caboose pistol. Give me your questions, comments, or thoughts right underneath the show right here if you're watching it a little bit later. However you're watching, at John Lund Radio on X or Instagram, Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, however you're watching. Remember, you are always more than welcome to come over to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. You can subscribe, hit that like button. Please, if you do one thing before you get out of here, hit the like button before you get out of here as well. That helps the algorithm find us and grow our fine community. And if you put those alerts on, and that's more important than ever on this show because we put out stuff during the day now, different clips, different thoughts, different sports, different things like that. And then at night, we do a 49ers recap. So that's what we do. So make sure you have those alerts on you to get all that other stuff as well. Also, by the way, if you go over to X, you can you always can get your questions answered there as well. That's at John Lund Radio NX. And again, make sure you're subscribed, like, and keep those alerts on. Have a great, amazing, wonderful rest of your Tuesday night.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!